convening the December 13th, 2018 hearing of the Little Rock Planning Commission. Do I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Brock? Here. Commissioner Bynum?
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Here.
Commissioner Haynes?
Here.
Commissioner LaTour?
Here.
Commissioner May?
Here.
Commissioner Rahman?
Here.
Commissioner Stebbins? Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Vogel?
Here.
Chairman Berry?
Here.
Do have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes of the November 1st, 2018 meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the minutes as requested.
All
I
right.
second.
All right. Have the minutes, motion's been made to approve and it's been seconded. Those approve of the amendments, raise your hand. Those who do not approve? Okay. Let's have the presentation of the consent agenda. Dana?
Okay. Consent agenda for the December 13th, 2018 meeting of the Little Rock Planning Commission consists of the following items. And Mr. Chair, I did just this minute receive a request from the attorney representing the applicant on item D, requesting deferral of this item to the January 31st. They're trying to address staff's concerns regarding parking and do have some late information that I prefer not to take at this point.
Okay.
So
Is this their third deferral? Would be
yes, they will have to
bylaw waiver for this?
a bylaw waiver, and they will have to re-notify via certified mail.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if it's okay with the commission, I'll place that on consent as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So on consent deferral, we have item D, file Z 9352, 4616 Asher Avenue, short form PCD, located at 4616 Asher Avenue. The applicant did just request deferral of this item to the January 31st agenda in order to provide additional information to staff. Staff will support this last deferral. It will take a waiver of the bylaws for the late and third deferral request. Also on consent deferral is item F, file Z 4470-L, Lot 3, Chenal Park Center, short form PCD, located at 15112 Chenal Parkway. On November 20th, the applicant requested deferral of this item to allow for further study of options. Staff recommends deferral of the item to January 31st, 2019. We received a request today regarding item 3. The applicant did, let me find that for you. Applicant did submit a request on this item today. That's file Z 5534-C, University and R Street, short form PCD, located on the northwest corner of University Avenue and R Street. Applicant submitted a request today asking that the item be deferred to January 31st, 2019 to allow them opportunity to meet with the neighbors in the neighborhood, try to address some of their concerns. This item will also take a bylaw waiver due to the late deferral request. Item 5 needs to be placed on deferral. This item Z 6488-C, KLR Properties, revised short form PCD, located at 12400 Cantrell Road. The applicant did not complete the notification requirements, and this item needs to be deferred to January 31st, 2019. On consent approval, the following items. Item B, file Z 7463-C. That's Lot 4, Commerce Square Edition, conditional use permit located on the north side of West 65th Street in the 6100 block. The applicant did submit a revised site plan addressing the concerns that staff had about parking. Buildings 1 through 4 are each shown with 6 parking spaces in addition to the loading dock access. Buildings 4 through 8, located on the eastern end of the site, are shown with either 3 or 4 parking spaces directly adjacent to the building in addition to the loading dock access. An additional 8 spaces are shown off of the cul-de-sac in close proximity to these 4 buildings. A total of 48 spaces are provided, and staff is now able to support this item. Staff recommends approval. of the proposed conditional use permit subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of a variance from section 31-210 to allow the driveways as indicated on the revised site plan. And staff recommends approval of a variance from the land alteration ordinance to allow grading of the entire site with development of the first building. Also on consent approval is item 1, file S 1313-SS, Woodlands Edge, blocks 32 and 33, preliminary plat, located south of the existing Woodlands Edge development. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the following variances. A variance from the land alteration ordinance to allow advanced grading of a portion of the lots with installation of the basic infrastructure. A variance from section 31-256 to allow a reduced front building line of 20 feet for the lots not fronting onto a collector street. A variance from section 36-254 to allow a side yard setback of 5 feet for all lots with a width of 60 feet in block 33. A variance from section 36-254 to allow a reduced rear yard setback of 15 feet for all lots. A variance from the master street plan to allow an increased length of a minor residential street. A variance from the master street plan to allow an increased grade for collector street of 16%. And a variance from the master street plan to allow a reduced right-of-way of 40 feet to match the existing improvements in Woodlands Edge. Also on consent approval, item 2, file S 1834, lot 10, block 3, Kimball and Bodeman's addition replat, located at 621 Valmer Street. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat subject to the following conditions. First being compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Second, there is to be a single driveway on the Valmer Street frontage, not more than 20 feet in width, centered on the common lot line between the two lots. Staff recommends approval of the following variants. The first being a variance from section 31-232 to allow the lots to be more than 3 times as deep as they are wide. A variance from section 36-255 to allow the lots to be less than 5,000 square feet in area. And a variance from section 36-255 to allow the lots to have a width of less than 50 feet. Also on consent approval, item 6, file Z8042-D, Northwest Territory Lot 10, revised short form PCD, located on the northeast corner of Cantrell Road and Chenal Parkway. Staff recommends approval of the requested PCD subject to compliance with the following conditions. First being compliance with the staff comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Second, the use mix and required parking in the development must not exceed the available on-site parking. Also on consent approval, item 7, file Z9377, Fulmer short form PDO located at 102 Barton Street. Staff recommends approval of the request subject to compliance with the following conditions. First being compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. This PDO approval is solely for the ownership and occupancy of this property by the applicant, Jonelle Fulmer. And the last item on consent, item 8, file Z9378, 800 Town Oaks, short form PDC, located at 800 Town Oaks Drive. Staff recommends approval of the requested PDC subject to compliance with the staff comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. And I apologize, staff would also like to add item E to the consent approval. That's file S 1424-I, that's Sienna Lake revised preliminary plat, located on Benham Lane, just south of Marchwood Lane. Staff recommends approval of preliminary plat subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff would also like to read the following additional condition into the record. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for Sienna Lake Subdivision Block 7, subject to construction of stormwater detention ponds in conformance with the City of Little Rock Stormwater Management and Drainage Manual prior to the platting of any lots beyond the current proposed phase located outside of the Sienna Lake drainage basin. That concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, staff, do I hear a motion for the bylaw waivers for deferrals, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the consent agenda, including a bylaw waiver on items 3 and D.
Okay. The bylaw waiver will be a separate vote from the consent. You've heard the motion to approve waiver of the bylaws for deferrals, item B and 3.
3 and D.
3 and D? Yes, sir? That's correct. Do I hear a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded for the bylaw waiver for those two items. Those approved, raise your hand. Those who do not? Okay. Now for the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Motion's been made for consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded for the consent agenda. Those approve of the consent agenda, raise your hand. Those who do not? Okay, consent agenda has been approved. If your item was on the consent agenda, you're certainly welcome to be excused or stay in from the rain, however you like it. If you don't know if something is up for the regular agenda will be C, the Granite Mountain item, we'll be hearing that next, and then item 4. So thank you for coming, and safe travels for the holidays. Yeah. That's coming up next on the regular. By the way, I think I saw some blue cards floating around back there, I'd assume for Granite Mountain. If you have a card you wish to speak, just bring it on up to me, and we'll get you recognized on the roster. And we'll take just a moment, staff, before we begin. Thank you.
Which item? Yeah, that's been approved.
That feels good, doesn't it?
Mr. Chairman, would you reiterate the items that are remaining?
Items C and item 4.
Item A,
Oh, excuse me, item A. I apologize.
item A,
A, C, and 4.
C, and 4. That's the Simpson Addition preliminary plat, the Vimy Ridge Road PCD, and top of the ladder on Stanton Road. Those are the 3 remaining items.
Yes, that is correct. Okay, why don't we begin with item A, please?
Item A, File S 1825, Simpson Addition preliminary plat located east of Milburn Lane and Dover Street. The applicant is proposing the subdivision of this 4.7 acre parcel into 12 single-family residential lots. The subdivision is proposed with a minimum lot size of a quarter acre and a maximum lot size of 0.36 acres. Most of the lots are indicated with setbacks consistent with the R2 single-family zoning district, with a 25-foot front, 25-foot rear. Side yards indicated at 10% of the lot width, not to exceed 8 feet. One variance is requested to allow Lot 12 to have a reduced front building line of 15 feet to accommodate the required diameter of the cul-de-sac that was required by the fire department. The proposal includes 717 linear feet of new street and a 50-foot right-of-way. The proposed tract, which is a separate parcel, will be a common area and used for detention. In addition to the reduced building line for Lot 12, the second variance concerns the ending of the cul-de-sac at the bottom of the subdivision. Section 31202 states where a street does not extend to the boundary of subdivision and its continuation is not necessary for access to adjoining property, its terminus shall not be closer than 50 feet to the boundary. This proposed plat, as you look up there, you'll see the cul-de-sac ends within 50 feet of the boundary of the property line. The properties to the south, which would be across the plat boundary from this site, are heavily wooded and undeveloped. They're an old paper platted but undeveloped subdivision. Many of the lots in that subdivision have been acquired by the city as an extension of Gillum Park located to the west. Staff recommends approval of the proposed plat, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the variance from section 31202 to allow the proposed street to end within 50 feet of the boundary of the subdivision. And staff recommends approval of the variance from section 31256 to allow proposed lot 12 to have a building line of 15 feet.
Okay. Thank you. Is the applicant here? Before the applicant speaks, I want to remind everyone on every item we speak on a regular agenda, there's 20 minutes allowed for those for the applicant and those for the application, and those that are against it have 20 minutes as well, equally. And so I don't think that'll be a burden, but I just want to remind you, I do have several cards for this. So the applicant, you're welcome to state your case, and I certainly yield time to hear those in opposition to answer their questions.
Good morning, or good afternoon. This plat is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's exactly what Mr. Dana just expressed. I would like to hear the comments and then address any comments that are need to be addressed.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, here we go. Gloria Springer.
Can I yield to Charles Springer going first?
Sure.
Good evening. I was notified through a registered mail letter of this proposed activity out in our area. And as I understood it, it was a proposal that College Station had just denied for their area. Am I correct in that?
No, sir.
That these houses would be used to house a certain class of people. Is that correct?
No, sir. This is a proposal to create 12 new single-family residential lots to be occupied by whoever buys the homes.
By whoever buys the homes. That was not the information that I received. I've been out on that mountain for 79 years, and I've watched this commission redevelop Granite Mountain from the time I was a kid, when you came in and you purchased my dad's property from him for a small amount of money, and he was putting up another building there in that area for his barbecue place because he had a restaurant, a small grocery store, and a service station. Right where you now have the apartments across the street from Watershed. And they told him at the time that it wouldn't be redeveloped for a business area. So when they purchased his property, he had to spend quite a bit more for the property that he acquired. and we built the first house in Granite Heights after the development. Now, if these housings are going to be used for what was indicated to me, and that was that these people that were coming in would be people, troubled people, and that they would occupy these spaces around there. Now, I have watched the development of Granite Mountain for all of these years. And with the airport expansion, with the mining that's there, that came in after the bauxite mining had occurred all around us, I was notified not too long ago about the child molesters that they brought out there and placed on Springer Boulevard. We have so many trains out in Granite Mountain now that if they were all occupied tracks, you couldn't leave the mountain. If they were all occupied tracks, you couldn't leave the mountain. Now we have to suffer with all of this all the time. And we get the planes from the air base, helicopters, and everything else. You have literally destroyed Granite Mountain from what it used to be when it was originally developed. It's supposed to be a residential area. And most of us who invested in our homes out there would like to see it redeveloped in that fashion to where people could be comfortable in their lives living on Granite Mountain. And you won't propose a lot of things for Granite Mountain industrialized, as this board has indicated early on in the years that they had no other plans for Granite Mountain other than industrialization, the same as you did in the East End when the airport expanded. Took all those people's homes away from them and moved them out. I'm really concerned that the proposals that you are approving for Granite Mountain are not in our best benefit. And I would appreciate it if you would reconsider placing any adverse type of housings out there, because we are adjacent to Pulaski County area there that they've already, it's a so-called church there, just past the Dollar General. And you see a lot of homeless people now in Granite Mountain walking up and down the road all the time. And we're tired of that. And I'd appreciate it if you would reconsider not adding anything of adverse proportion to Granite Mountain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Springer. Gloria, did you want to say anything?
For one thing, how do you notify a community that you're going to let a change happen? Because I see a few residents got registered letters, but our neighborhood association meets every month, and the president is here now, and we had no idea this was happening. That's why you get people with ideas that you're going to house some more people that have been incarcerated, sexual offenders, which we do have up the street from where we live. And while the Dollar General is a very nice addition to the community, people have to walk along Highway 365, Springer Boulevard, and risk their lives to get there. We've been asking for sidewalks. We didn't hear anything. We have flooding at the bottom of the hill. It's flooded right now, and we didn't get a raised road for that, like similar to Arch Street, where you can just not have to soak yourself. Because most of the people out there are seniors, children, minorities, of course, except for the people at the home for the sexual offenders. And people in need of things. And so they have to walk, and they have to walk beside 18-wheelers. Then they have to walk beside hauling trucks with dust from 3M, which you wouldn't know was in our community because they don't take part in our community as neighborhood association. We have blasting and trucking and flooding and dust and airplanes and trains, and not a park anybody would go to, not a playground. You put the homes at Granite Mountain, a housing complex on that hill over there with the 3 little circles up there, and it's not a swing or a slide or a sled or, anything for a child to do, but stay out of the way of the men who have to walk to the home for the sexual offenders. And you do see them with bags on their shoulders, trudging up the highway, trying to get to help. Buses come every 2 an hour. And that Kroger that you leave on East Roosevelt looks like it did 58 years ago when I came to Granite Mountain. And the development that we want, while those homes may be of good intent, we would like to be involved when you make decisions about our community, this little bitty community, okay? You understand this is a little bitty community on top of a hill along the highway where they used to put us. After the war, the first black neighborhood in Little Rock. We have nothing to brag about because we don't have a central. We had a Gillum, but it's the watershed. And we all know that Reverend has handed over the watershed to somebody else now. It looks better. But that's what we have. We have social programs, safe harbors. That's okay. That's fine. But give the people who invested their hard-earned income a reason to leave their homes to their children, and then they would come back and rebuild and stay in our communities. But don't dump stuff on us, and don't just tell us what's going to happen to us again. You wonder why people get angry. It's because you don't let them participate. Let us participate and defer this, and let us talk to him, because we don't know him. We don't know what's happening. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Springer. Tammy Hayes?
Hello. I came to this meeting just to try to figure out what's going on. I live right at Simpson, right in the curve where he's about to start building. And my thing is, you come in with these new houses, but are you going to upgrade the neighborhood? It's like these houses are going to be sticking out, and then you have all these other houses that's just mediocre housing. So my thing is, I'm actually okay with it, but upgrade the neighborhood, or buy the properties and make them all like his property, rather than bringing these mansions in the hood. But like the streets, the roads, like she was speaking about, the water, the airplanes, we have to go through all of that. And then someone comes in, I'm for nice housing, but it's not going to, I want the neighborhood to be better by what's coming to it. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Constance Reddix?
Good evening. How many of you people have ever been to Granite Mountain? To visit? Okay. Then you know people in Granite Mountain are just as proud of their property as other people who live in other communities. Okay? I have lived through urban renewal for Granite Mountain in the 50s, okay? I know what it's all about. Everything that you don't want some other place, let's put it at Granite Mountain, okay? We care about our property just like everybody else cares about theirs. we are human beings too. We want to live a good life or a decent life, just like everybody else. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Is it getting through to you? We want to be proud just like everybody else. We care about our community. Don't just throw everything at us. We've collected so much other trash that nobody else wanted. East End used to be East End. It's now East Village. Those people lost all their homes to the Airport Commission. What's going to happen to Granite Mountain? Are we going to lose ours to the quarry so they can bum us out some more? The airports, the airplanes coming over where you can't even hear. They cut off my television every time they fly over my home. We are enduring so much already. How much more pain do you want to cause us? Think about it.
Thank you for your comments. Stephanie Ricks-Fields.
Good afternoon. I'm the president of the Granite Mountain Neighborhood Improvement Association, which is our current association. And though we received a letter that was very skeletal in its design to let us know what was about to happen in our neighborhood, my concern is that, as the previous speakers have said, we care about Granite Mountain. Most of us have been there 50 years or longer. And we want to see our community continue to improve, hence the name Improvement Association. We would like to have an opportunity, as other neighborhoods would, to meet with someone who's developing in our community and have a direct dialogue with them about what they propose to do in our community before they're allowed to do it. And I don't think that's an unusual request. We've come to this meeting for October, November. It's been deferred each time that we arrived. So we've left and we've waited to receive a second letter or a third letter or a fourth letter about it coming up to the agenda. So we, as a community, want a chance to address the people who are about to build in our community or even have a proposal to build in our community so that we're aware of what's going to happen and that we have a voice in what happens in the community that we reside in now. And I don't know what the proper procedure is about deferrals, but we are definitely requesting not just the deferral, but we're requesting to actually have names and telephone numbers of developers so that I can contact them. I have no problem doing that. And each time that I've called to find out who's over and who's proposing, they won't just give me that information. So if you would allow us to have the opportunity to have a say in about what's happening in our community, we would greatly appreciate that.
Okay, I think that's all the cards I have for comments against. Yes, sir?
Yes, because that is right across.
Could you come up to the lectern, please? I realize you just came in and didn't fill out a card.
I drive for a living. I just got back from Missouri.
That's okay. Could you state your name? And
My name is Joe Hall.
Okay. And
Yeah, I stay on 1922 Dover Lane.
okay.
Mirror Lane is on the corner. We've been having that when it was just all woods. You know, my father was one of the first ones built there. And we had peace. And it's real nice and gorgeous. You know, that's just deers running through your yard, squirrels running everywhere. We got peace in that corner. We already have problems for them building another apartment complex in the neighborhood. We dealt with that. Now, it's got to be some reasoning going on about this. Just don't you know, you feel like you want to develop and just come into people's neighborhoods and then we don't know what's going to be there. I don't really know the plan. My neighbor called me and told me, because I didn't get the letter in the mailbox, telling me something about they planning on, I don't know, what they put in apartments or houses. What is the situation?
We're getting ready to, the applicant's getting ready to tell it, clarify it
Yes.
for us, so.
But it's just be a shame to knock all that nature down, and it's been a peaceful corner for, I mean, ever since the early '60s, and we don't need no more. We just need peace.
All right, thank you. Applicant? State your name. Yes.
I'm Jason with Half Plus Marler. I just wanted to address the commission, all the people out here. For one, this is going to be all single-family homes.
It's just talking to the mic, so we have that on record.
This is going to be all single-family homes. You know, I don't know the agenda of who they're going to buy, who's going to buy them or anything. That's the developer's discretion on who he sells to. I have no clue on that. I haven't heard nothing on any kind of, you know, specifics on that. The developer's looking to develop, I mean, the owner of that property is looking to develop that property into something that is worthwhile. I mean, it's going to meet all city codes, all, you know, drainage, the bottom down there where all the water and stuff drains to. He plans on putting a little pond out there. You know, he's going to have a detention pond. Along with, he's looking at possibly some kind of park stuff out there for the community. So he is looking to kind of develop the community, you know, and, you know, that's an area that he said he was from in that area. So he's looking to bring some life back to the area. I'll answer any questions the commission has.
Yes.
Jason, did the developer try to meet with anybody or the commissions out there to talk to people to make them aware of what was going in so they could have some kind of information?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it's just right now it's in preliminary phase. I mean, he's going to plat it into lots. The actual, you know, size of houses has to meet all city codes. I mean, it's a plat. It's not like a commercial development where, you know, there's just set stuff out there, you know, whereas it's a residential neighborhood. So, I mean, it's going to vary through there. You know, he's looking at just developing his property out there into, you know, property he can manage and he can, I guess, profit from that. You know, he's tired. He said he's been maintaining it for so long and he's just ready to, you know, get out of it.
Correct. I was just asking, did he even try to meet with the community?
That I don't know. I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
No.
On that, Dana, the notification process, could you kind of clarify
I was
that?
going
'Cause
to
that
tell
came
that.
up.
I'm sorry.
The notification process, I know it goes to abutting property owners within 200 feet radius.
No, on a preliminary plat, the notification is to owners of abutting properties,
Abutting property owners.
and then we send a notice to the neighborhood.
You did to the neighborhood association?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, on that one, I do believe we did do a 200-foot radius on that one too. But I mean, it's not required, but we did. I do believe it was done by an abstract company. It's
Right.
how we generate the you know, neighbors that are associated within that radius, and we mail them out.
Yep, it'll be in that file.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, other questions, comments, Commissioner Thomas?
Hi, Jason, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
How many houses again could you reinstate?
It is. I've lost the count. 12. It's 12 lots total, and then there's one that's a detention area, along with, you know, possibly a, you know, play area or, you know,
Possible, I'm sorry?
possible, like,
Possible.
you know, gathering area, stuff, place to play and stuff like that. He's looking into that.
Looking into it.
Yes, but there is it's part of that detention pond area
So
down
12,
on the very bottom part down there.
so 12 houses.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know the size
I do not, no, ma'am.
of those
I
houses?
mean, they'd have to meet the city requirements, whatever the city requirements are, is what they're looking at.
Does he have estimate of what he's going to sell the houses for?
He don't have none of that now. I mean, it's all in developmental phase of, you know, it's got to be approved first before he goes for, looking for numbers and ways. I mean, he knows the minimum standards that he's looking at, but or I mean, he knows what the city standards are.
Yeah, but I was just wondering if, when you approach an investment of this kind or development of this kind, you do have an idea of what you're proposing to do for an investment wise.
I'm sure he does. I mean, he might have something in his mind. I mean, he has not told us. No, we're just developing the property.
And you represent him in what aspect again?
We're the civil engineers that designed the drawing and that they're doing the platform.
Okay. I don't know, I guess if I could ask you this question, but I don't know, is it appropriate to ask him, would they even consider deferring to communicate with the citizens?
Let's hear from other commissioners. That would be up to him. Any other questions you have?
Yeah, I just thought it might be beneficial and helpful for all parties involved if maybe there was more communication and, then I mean, I could be missing some, but I don't hear a clear plan myself. Listening to you, even
the clear plan is for residential houses on each one of those lots, to meet or not to exceed the city standards of the requirements.
Yeah, that's very vague, though. I don't know. It's just I just don't hear a clear plan.
Commissioner Latour. Hold on, please.
We're not supposed to negotiate from up here, and I'm not negotiating, but I'm going to think out loud, and you can take it for whatever it's worth. This probably meets the code and is a good thing. And just looking at the map, I'm probably for it. Now, having said that, I think the residents make a good point. I don't think you've been able to answer enough questions to satisfy us, much less them. I'm not sure I agree with everything they said, but I think the point is there needs to be some communication. I'm not negotiating, but I would think you might want to request a deferral and see what happens, because that way you can answer not only their questions at their time, but the questions that Commissioner Thomas just asked you, which seem to be really simple questions. That's just, I'm not negotiating, I'm just thinking out loud.
Let's hear some other commissioners. Commissioner Scott?
Well, I kind of heard some other things you were thinking. It wasn't really nice. But anyway, one of the things that I'm hearing is that there's a lot of conversation about lack of clarity. I mean, this could be a fabulous development that could satisfy the neighborhood. I may say this is fantastic, but that I haven't heard. And that's concerning to me. It's also concerning to me that you're here as a civil engineer, not the developer. So I just put that out as food for thought. And you stop thinking those things.
Okay. Commissioner May.
Oh, he is here. Sorry. I didn't even see him come in behind me.
First of all, I want to applaud the neighborhood for being here. It makes our job a lot simpler. I hear your voice. I hear what you're saying. And I think this would be a good thing. I mean, anytime you can get new houses in an area, that starts more new houses starting and so forth. But I don't know enough. I can't. All I can do is vote it down, but we need more information.
Commissioner, the actual developer's right here. I didn't realize.
My name's Corey Schneider.
Okay.
I own that property, and I have owned that property for about 18 years or so. What I envision there, the way this was laid out, that this property goes up from the
Sir, would you stand in front of the microphone?
Speak to the mic for the record,
so it
please.
goes up from the street, and it has a lot of the trees are still there, just that little front end there, that's level. But from the back of that lot, she goes up, okay? And it's got all the natural trees. I envision this as an affordable housing. I'm in it real cheap, so I want to make it that I can pass off that affordability and have affordable, smaller houses, quality built there. That's what I envision there. And then I can keep some of the trees, so it's nice, and that's it. I mean, I got my neighbor to the left there, the people from California, they never cut their lawn. Sometimes I go to cut my front lawn and the grass is this high. On the other side, I'm talking with one of the neighbors. In fact, he wants to meet me tonight. It would be great if I can get the left and the right side, and you guys can have a park over there that fronts on Simpson and Millburn. That would be great. It's laid flat. It'd be great. So what else can I tell you about it?
Other commissioners' questions? Commissioner Brock.
Let me get this thing on. Okay, you're going to build spec houses to sell to people who want to buy them. You're not going to build houses and sell them to riffraff. Is what we're.
Yeah, in other words, I've been a proponent of smaller houses that are quality to build. I'm doing another project in town here in the Capitol Hill zoning district. It's on the corner of Park and 7th. And I went to that board with a preliminary house. It was a Katrina cottage. And they let me present my Katrina cottage. And they said, Corey, we love it. Bring back your real application, and we'd love to see this. And that's a quality built house. It would have a metal roof. It would have a front porch where people can sit on the front porch. It would have, good R value. It would have a good, what they call the envelope to make it affordable to live there with the heating and the air conditioning. And so that's, I don't want to just build something that's just minimum code and there it is. I mean, it's just you pay for a house and it costs a lot of money to pay for it. You want, I know I do. I want quality. If I'm going to buy something, I want quality. I want it to last. So that's what I envision there.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Corey, what you're describing sounds fantastic to me. When you say small size, square footage, what are you thinking?
Well, here I have to adhere to whatever the minimum sizes are, but I mean, it'll have to blend into the neighborhood. If the neighborhood's about 11 to 1,600 square feet, then that's what I'm going to propose, because they have to appraise.
Right.
In other words, I build a new house, and if it's too small or too big, there's no sales to appraise.
So we currently know what the neighboring houses are size-wise. What are those sizes? Are you aware yet, or?
My gut feeling from being in that neighborhood, I know in the older part over there, they're probably, like I said, you're probably about 11 to 1,700 square feet houses. Are they bigger? Are they smaller?
They're much smaller.
Smaller or bigger?
Smaller.
How much bigger?
Do you know your measurement?
Okay. Well, okay. But my next question to that is that, okay, so what you're proposing is something that's similar in size of what's currently in the neighborhood.
And you would have to, because they would never appraise. I'd never be able to sell it. They would never be able to get a mortgage.
Second point I heard you make is that on the, I think you said the Park Street property, that you met with the association there?
I met, that one is it's not in the Little Rock zoning. It's in the Capitol View zoning. And I requested to speak before the board. You can do that. They have that there to put your proposal out there. And
is that something that you've done with the Granite Mountain development?
I didn't even know there was a Granite Mountain Association.
Okay.
I mean, and they could have wrote me a letter. I mean, my address is on the tax bill. I mean, I would have responded to anybody. In fact, one of the neighbors called me tonight, and I took his call, and I'm going to meet him after the meeting.
Okay. As a developer, I would suggest, in my opinion, that sounds like something that you have done before.
Okay.
Done what? Meet with people? Oh yeah, I have no problem with it. I'm not here to pull the wool over anyone's eyes here. I mean, it's been there. People probably seen me cut that lawn. I'm open.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Thomas.
Hi. Hi. Corey, is it?
Corey, please.
Corey, I heard you say that you have done other developments.
Well, I'm proposing this other one in town.
Okay, and the one that you're proposing, so that gives me the impression, I'm a real estate broker by trade, that I'm sure you're not going into this development with no idea of what square footage you're planning to build these houses for, on what you plan on selling them for. Are you selling them? Are you going to rent them? Are they going to be
I'm not going to
duplex?
rent them.
Not going to rent them?
No.
Not going to rent them. So you're going to sell them. You're going to develop this land with no idea of what the square footage is going to be for these 12 homes.
I thought I said that I'm going to keep it within the neighborhood, isn't
That's
it?
not a, but that's not a definition. Because with your gentleman here, if you're proposing to us, there's going to be 12 homes, you have to have some idea of what side the lots are going to be and what structure you're going to be putting on them.
Staff?
Chairman Barry, if I may interject a minute, there's been several points and items addressed by both, the citizens that come up before in opposition and also the commissioners. And I just want to clarify some issues. First, it is not a requirement in our codes that any developer, when they present anything to any commission, meet with any neighborhood association. A neighborhood association is what it is. It's a neighborhood association. It is not a governed body by the city or a commission by the city. So they can choose to meet with them, which that may be a good idea, and they could choose not to meet with them, but that is not a requirement and not be a requirement of a deferral for that. The other item was, the question was raised, what will be done with these homes. And per federal regulations, for single-family homes, whether they are rented, whether they are sold, that is not a criteria of ours or a consideration of ours, or whom they rent or sell those homes to. This is just a dividing of a subdivision, to clarify that. Now, as far as the square footage of the home, this is not a planned development. This is a subdivision. They are not required to, but stipulations on the size of home that is on the lot. I know that we've asked some questions about the size of the buildings that are going to be built, but they are allowed to build within the building setbacks to the maximum allowed within the building setbacks. They can build less, but they can build up to the building setbacks. That's why we have, the stuff in there. And so on a normal, and this is a regular plat, the stipulations of building sizes is not a criteria or stipulation that can be carried forward as a item of approval.
My concern with this is just everything is just so vague, and it doesn't seem to be a clear plan or information given freely either to this commission or to the citizens. So that's the reason for my questioning.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, did you have something you wanted to say? Sean?
Just have a question for staff because there's a lot of questions on this. Has this met the preliminary plat requirements for what needs to be submitted?
This has met the requirements of what is to be submitted for a preliminary plat. It complies with all aspects of the subdivision code, but for two variances. There is a variance to allow the cul-de-sac to extend a little closer to that south boundary, and then there is one variance to allow one lot to have a 15-foot front setback because of the diameter of the cul-de-sac for the fire trucks. Otherwise, it complies with your subdivision ordinance requirements.
Thank you. So Richardson's not a consideration here.
No, it is not.
Before we hear a motion on this, and this is for the applicant. I think we're ready to move on. Is it, if it's material?
Indicate something to you that I don't think any of you are aware of out in Granite Mountain, and that is that
Come to the mic, please. But before you speak, come to the mic.
who originally built those houses that exist now in Granite Mountain are dead or moved. You have a lot of houses out there right now that are available because they are shut down and boarded up. You don't even require that they maintain the property that's there now, and it's more properties available probably out there now than he's trying to build.
Okay.
And we don't need him out there with this
Okay.
to enhance us. We need for you to take care of what's already there and have the properties improved that have deteriorated so that it will make the entire area look a lot better, and we don't need him out there for that.
Well, we heard you loud and clear, and this is for the applicant, and there might be some sentiment before we take a vote and a motion. Technically, I'm glad Jamie clarified that there is a framework for which we review these. I will remind the rest of us, though, that there is sensitivity with Granite Mountain. I don't know how long you've lived in Little Rock, Corey, but I have a long time. We can't solve all of the grievances that Granite Mountain has. In my mind, there's some conversation probably that needs to be backed up a little bit, but I can't suggest that. In talking with the neighborhood, and they still might be aggrieved, and they still might not be satisfied. But if there is some concern about the process, then you might hear this in a vote. So, with that said, Commissioner Stebbins?
If we approve this plat, it does not go to the board for approval, right? There's no chance for them to go to and speak at the board meeting. Is that correct? The approval of the plat?
That's my understanding, but staff will have to clarify that for me.
If we approve this today, it does not go to the board for approval, right? They would not have another opportunity to speak. Okay, so it would be approved today, and it would be a done deal.
That's correct. Okay. Okay. We're not going to have a food fight. We've had an order of process, and we have heard you. Thank you. I've heard you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of this item, including all staff comments and conditions therein.
I'll second.
Okay, you've heard a motion to approve this application with all staff comments and recommendations. Those approve of this application, raise your hand. Those who do not. Okay. All right, that was lively. We can now proceed to the next item. Certainly, y'all are welcome to stay out of the rain, but we're going to proceed to the next item on the regular agenda. Let's give ourselves a moment. Okay, staff, can we hear item C?
Item C, File Z 8286-B, property located at 13500 block of Vimy Ridge Road. This is 13500 Vimy Ridge Road, short form PCD. Property is currently zoned C1 neighborhood commercial. The applicant is requesting approval of a PCD zoning to allow for development of the site for mini warehouses. The request includes the placement of several buildings of climate-controlled and non-climate-controlled mini warehouses. The property would be fenced with access off of Vimy Ridge Road. Hours of access to the units is proposed as 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. There would not be 24-hour access. The applicant indicates no ground-mounted sign would be proposed for the development, rather it be signage on the Vimy Ridge Road frontage of the buildings. The applicant has, as we've gone through this process, he's made revisions to the site plan, has tweaked it in one way or another, and at the end of the day, since the last, which was September 20th, the The final proposal includes a 29,000 square foot climate and non-climate controlled building along the north perimeter of the site, a 1,500 square foot building along the east perimeter, 3,000 square foot building on the south perimeter, and a 9,850 square foot climate, non-climate controlled building within the interior. 25-foot buffers proposed along the stream on the east perimeter. 25-foot buffers proposed 25-foot buffers proposed along the stream north of a 10-foot sewer easement on the south perimeter. Staff does have concerns with the development as proposed. The property is currently zoned C1 commercial, which is defined by the code as neighborhood commercial. It's the appropriate zoning designation in close proximity to single-family residential. The first place that mini warehouse appears as a by right use in the zoning ordinance is actually in the C4 zoning district, which is certainly not an appropriate zoning directly adjacent to residential neighborhoods. The C1 neighborhood commercial designation should focus on supplying uses that meet the need of the neighborhood residents, not depend on market areas larger than the neighborhood. Staff feels that the proposed use is not appropriate for the site. In addition, with the development as proposed under this project, we feel it is overbuilding the site. Basically, other than the perimeters that I mentioned, the site is building and asphalt with little else. You also received, I believe it was 3 letters of opposition on this item from neighborhood residents. Staff does recommend denial of this item.
Okay, is the applicant here? Please state your name.
I'm Stephen Giles. I'm an attorney. I'm representing the applicant, the builder developer, Michael Hunter. And I wanted to thank you for being here and hearing this item. Always appreciate staff for their time and working out through this process. Mr. Hunter has proposed this mini storage facility, and the way we've looked at it, and we've studied this pretty hard, many warehouses nowadays are a neighborhood use. I've seen there's so many residential neighborhoods that have mini storage adjacent to them, out Highway 10, Bowman Road, several I could point out exactly which ones, but this one, the buildings only take up 40%, 46% of the total lot area. And he's taken very careful thought and consideration about the concerns of staff, of course, and the neighbors. And we haven't heard from any of the neighbors. We had seen some letters, I think 3 letters that the staff has received back in August or something when it was first coming forward. And we believe that traffic and noise and litter and those kinds of things were the concerns of the neighbors. But we feel like with the buffers that are being preserved, the natural buffers, that nobody's going to even see these buildings because the way he's designed the buildings, and he's proposing to do a concrete block wall painted behind the buildings that will conceal.
Part of the building.
Yeah, part of the building. And so they won't see the metal of it because I think that was one of the concerns of the neighbors. And there are C1 uses that would be more intrusive to this neighborhood than what this is a very quiet development. And Mr. Hunter he's done these projects before, and he can attest to the fact that they are quiet. There's no litter, there's no loitering, they're secure, and there's one way in, one way out on Miami Ridge. So there's going to be very, very little traffic in and out of there. And so with that being said, we'd be happy to answer questions. And if there's anybody here in opposition, we'd like to be able to reply to them.
Yes.
Okay.
We do have one card, Ruth Bell.
As usual, I'm differing with Mr. Giles. even though I've caught up with his family while we were waiting. I'm Ruth Bell. I represent the League of Women Voters. And looking at this and reading the staff comment, I'm struck by how surprised the people who live right adjacent to the, I don't know which way we're talking, but the one that really butts up against this property. If they worried at all about what things were zoned around them or planned around them, they saw a C1 that they were backing up to on their turnaround there. And if they'd asked, they would have found out C1 was designed for more neighborhood kind of businesses where you might easily pick up something simple for dinner or other purposes and not worry about a lot of intense use late at night. And now they're finding out, if they've even figured it out yet, that it's going to be a intense use with an awful lot of the property covered with concrete and buildings, although the applicant has reduced the amount of square footage in that department. I guess I see it as a intense use in an area that it's inappropriate to be so intensely used. And although I appreciate that the applicant is not running it 24 hours a day by having electronic access, but I've been the mother and grandmother of too many people arriving home with all their household goods from college or from their first home away from home, and immediately wanted to go to my husband's mini warehouse slot and deposit it all, whether it's 8 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the morning. They're there. They're ready to get rid of all those possessions until they go out and do something else. And I would think that there would be a lot of occasions when the people backing up to that area will be hearing cars and rental trucks chugging in and pulling up at very inconvenient time for people living next door, and loudly unloading, because the reason I know so much about children and grandchildren coming home and going immediately to the mini warehouse slot is because we had to go along too and help them move junk into the mini warehouse slot, and we were not quiet. For all these reasons, we would like you to vote no on this application. Thank you.
Okay. Applicant, would you like to respond?
We expected to have that kind of conversation, Commissioner Berry. And Michael's going to respond to that. And if you mind, can I approach the bench and hand out, I got 6 or 7 photographs that would be illustrative of his comment.
Okay.
Hello, my name's Michael Hunter, and thank you for this opportunity to go through this process. I live in Hot Springs, Arkansas. This, if approved, will be my 4th design, build, and own self-storage facility. Currently, I own one right now in Hot Springs, and it does abut a large residential neighborhood. The perimeter buildings up there is a design that I like because the outer wall is block of each building, so there is no access to get through, so it's like a fortress. The high side, I use all lean-to buildings, which means that they're not gabled. So the high side is all to the inside of the property. The lights are mounted onto the building so that no light escapes the property. It's very secure. It's probably would be the most high-tech self-storage facility in Pulaski County when completed. We monitor everybody's moves. Can I pass a couple of photos around? Okay. This is These were last minute photos I took yesterday. This is my facility in Hot Springs. I have 370 units, a density of about 54%, where this property is a little less than 46. The shape of the property makes it a little more complicated in how to get that density in there. Critical mass for a self-storage facility is about 40,000 net rentable square feet. This will have a little bit less than that. I plan on retaining all the natural buffers, only clearing probably 2 or 3 foot outside the building lines. Any questions?
Okay, commissioners, questions, comments, observations? Commissioner Stebbins.
You said that your roof slopes to the back, so the water would drain off the buildings toward these buffers?
And they would all flow directly into the detention pond. They would be downspouts, drained, everything from the property will go directly into the detention pond. All the driveways.
Through piping or through?
Through piping.
Okay.
Other commissioners? Staff? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of this item, including all staff comments and conditions therein, accepting that of denial.
Do I hear a second for his motion? Okay. The motion has been made and seconded to basically approve this application. So those in favor of this application, raise your hand. Those opposed to the application, raise your hand. Okay. Application is denied. Okay. We have one more item on the agenda, and that is item number 4.
Item number 4, file number Z6034-A, located at 8405 Stanton Road, a top-of-the-ladder short-form PCD. The property is occupied by a 4-suite commercial building. It was constructed prior to this area being annexed into the city in 1982. At the time of annexation, the property was zoned R2 single-family residential. In September of 1995, the Commission approved a conditional use permit to allow use of the building and property for a small private school. That use has since vacated the building. The applicant's proposing to rezone the site to PCD, Planned Commercial District, to allow for use of the existing building for a mixture of commercial and office uses, including a restaurant. A new driveway is proposed to be constructed along the north side of the property to provide access to a new 11-space parking lot to be located behind the building. As I stated, the building is divided into 4 separate suites, ranging in size from 650 square feet to 1,900 square feet. The applicant has submitted a specific list of uses proposed for the suites. The 3 small suites are proposed for occupancy by general and professional office uses, 1 barber beauty salon, or one of 2 commercial uses, a hair supply store or a clothing store. The largest suite is proposed for use by a restaurant. Days and hours of operation are currently proposed as 7 days a week between the hours of 7 a.m. to midnight. A covered deck on the rear of the building may be used for an area of outdoor dining for the restaurant. Signage will consist of a single ground-mounted sign, not to exceed 20 feet in height and 64 square feet in area, and wall signage or awning signage on the front of the building for each suite. A 6-foot-tall privacy fence is currently located along the north property line. Additional 6-foot-tall privacy fencing is to be installed along the east and south perimeters to enclose the rear portion of the site. A dumpster with screening is currently indicated on the south side of the front parking lot. If the plan is approved, service hours for the dumpster must be limited to Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. As I stated, a 10-foot wide concrete driveway is proposed along the north perimeter of the site to provide access to a new 11-space paved parking lot behind the building. Staff certainly recognizes that the building's not conducive to occupancy as a single-family R2 dwelling, and some other use is more appropriate for the building. We do have concerns about the current proposal. The property is located such that it would be surrounded by a variety of single-family residences, both site-built and manufactured. Additionally, the proposal to build a driveway and new parking lot results in a situation where there is no buffer at all between this site and the single-family residence adjacent to the north. The proposed use mix will result in a parking requirement of 25 to 26 spaces. The site currently has 9, an additional 11 will bring it up to 20. The proposed days and hours of operation, 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to midnight, are of additional concern to staff. Staff believes a more appropriate use would be one that better fits in the neighborhood, such again as a daycare or some use that might be dealt with as a conditional use. Potentially small office uses with weekday daytime hours could be considered more appropriate. You did receive some correspondence on this item. You received a letter of opposition from an adjacent property owner. Additionally, you received letters from the Upper Baseline Neighborhood Association and Southwest Little Rock United for Progress. In both of those, the two different associations suggested conditions under which they could support the item, conditions related to change in hours of operation, fencing, limits on outdoor dining, not allowing a food vending or mobile canteen unit on the property, moving the dumpster from the front of the business to the rear, and not allowing the driveway on the north. And those two letters were presented to the commission. As I stated, staff does have concerns with the commercial uses and the nature of the development is proposed, and staff does recommend denial of the item.
Okay, thank you, staff. Is the applicant here, please? Would you approach the lectern, state your name? We have a couple of cards here in opposition. You're certainly welcome to make your case for this application, and then yield time and wait to hear from those in opposition. You can respond to them. So,
okay, my name is Tracy Marshall, and the building that we purchased, I don't know if y'all have a copy or if y'all need a copy.
you can pass it on around.
The building is set up for commercial use, and the intended use is, right now we have our business atop of the ladder. It's an office. We intend to employ contractors, and that business operation will be from 8 to 5, Monday through Saturday. No trucks or anything on site because we subcontract. The next business will be a hair supply store and possibly a beauty or Barbie supply. The one that I think is opposed is the restaurant. The hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday, 10 till 10 during the Monday through Thursday, and the weekends, that's when we was projecting to 12 o'clock. We can alter that to 10 o'clock, and our intention is to employ people not to disrupt the community. Additional parking added to the back is so we would not, once the restaurant is up and going, we didn't want to disrupt the neighbors since we don't have enough parking out front. So we was going to add additional parking. Our cameras are already installed. We could not do any additional work to the building until it's transferred over to C2 or commercial use. Right now we're at a standstill on anything as far as fencing and as far as dining outside. If that would be a disrupt to the community, I understand that. We have more than enough seating on the inside. And I guess the dumpster, it was a daycare before, so the where it's placed, it was food and other things of that nature. But I'm sure we won't be opposed to moving that as well. And the only thing I can say, I can just listen to what the opposition is in the neighborhood and answer any questions thereafter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Bobby Wade?
Thank you, guys. I also agree with staff. Our house is north of that property line right there. It was a school for as long as I've owned the house. Obviously, the person that just bought that property is wanting to change it into a business operation. There's no other businesses within a long way, 3 or 4 blocks, 5 blocks down the road. There's only houses around it. A restaurant being open in the middle of the residential area, I think's bad. Anything's after hours would be bad. Before it was a school, the school was open from 7:30 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I just also sent an email. I don't know if y'all have that. I hope you do. Yeah, it's residential and it needs to be residential, and we appreciate y'all giving that some serious thought. Probably the reason about moving that dumpster, I don't think a truck that's that big will go down beside that fence in that building. The eave of the building hangs over, the truck's very high, it's probably going to hit the edge of the building. That's what I think, if you're going to put the dumpster in the back. That's all I got.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Wade.
Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Ruth Bell?
Well, I'm still Ruth Bell, and I'm still with the League of Women Voters, and I'm still opposing something. In this case, this is a big jump from a school, which is often seen as a neighborhood-friendly kind of use, just like a church is seen as a neighborhood-friendly use, to a lot of intense retail, in many cases, activity. And especially as you can see from the diagrams, that it really is surrounded closely by housing. It just is an inappropriate use in such a heavily residential neighborhood. We hope you will vote no.
Applicant, would you like to respond to any of that?
I most definitely understand the concerns. However, it's just not just going to be a restaurant. We're there to employ. Employment is down. With our company, we do roofing, siding, and gutters. We just recently expanded to contracting. So we are expecting to employ more people to come in and work. So we're needing a place where people can come, we staff, and not only that, the restaurant, and then the hair store. We sit in a community where the hair store will be owned by myself, so it'll be a black-owned hair store. And that in itself is not found in that neighborhood. And that's where we're at. We're in an ethnic neighborhood. It's a mixture, but we will provide that service along with employees. And I understand the concern about the dumpster. The dumpster itself, like I said, it's been there the entire time the school has been there. And the city requires that we enclose it. We don't have a problem with that, and it can stay there as long as we meet the guidelines. Because if the lid is open, we get charged extra $300. So as me and my husband manage the property, that's our investment. We stay in Southwest. So we're just trying to give back to the community, not take away. It's a high traffic area. A lot of cars, it's there day and night. And we're just trying to more so give back. We wasn't under the impression that it was R2 when we purchased the building. It wasn't until we tried to get a permit that we learned that it was R2 and not commercial, because it was advertised as commercial. Otherwise, we would have ventured out elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you. Other commissioners, comments, questions?
I'll make a comment. I drove out there and I looked at the building. I think the building has certain uses. And I agree with staff. There's a lot more uses that could go in there than a restaurant. I noticed all the houses around, and if you had a hair deal, that's a nice quiet use, and whatever else you mentioned is a good use, except the restaurant. If you're going to put a restaurant in there, I don't think that's an appropriate use, but it is a building that probably needs to have some kind of commercial, but not a restaurant. That's just my opinion.
Other commissioners? If not, we'll stand for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of this item, including all staff comments and conditions therein, except that of denial.
Okay, the motion made to approve the application. Do I hear a second? Okay. We have a motion that's been made and seconded to approve this application, except for the staff comments for denial. So if you are for this application, raise your hand. And if you're opposed to this application, raise your hand. Okay. Did you get a count on that? Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Application is denied. I have time for citizens' communications. Anyone want to? Ms. Bell, would you get it and share with us?
Just want to wish you, on behalf of the league and myself, a happy holiday, and we'll see you back in January.
2019, no doubt. Okay. Hearing none, we stand adjourned.